Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the show. Today, we have Zach Tavcar, who had a life changing near death experience at the age of 14. And since then, he's been on a journey of discovery and growth, sharing his insights with others. Zach, thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much for having me, lady.
Well, we're excited to have you here.
I'm excited to be here. It'll be fun.
All right, Zach. So, before we dive into your near death experience, can you tell us a little bit about your life before your NDE?
Yeah, before my NDE, I was just a normal kid, liked sports, had a good family, had two little brothers. I'm the oldest of three boys. My parents were married. We were all middle class kids, great family life, great home life. And then I got cancer when I was 14. I was diagnosed with leukemia. And And then 2 months later, I had the NDE. That was pretty much my life beforehand. I just liked sports and was good at normal kid, good grades, good everything.
So, were you and your family religious before your NDE?
We were like the holiday Catholics. So my
Mhm.
parents had gone to Catholic school when they were kids, and they tried to get us to be into religion, but my brothers and I weren't really. My littlest brother eventually became more Christian, but we were never raised particularly religious. My mom or my grandma on my dad's side, my paternal grandmother, she was an incredibly spiritual person, and she was Catholic. She was a pretty, weekly Catholic. She went to church and everything, but she was also very spiritual and interested in Deepak Chopra and Wayne Dyer and just different people in that kind of esoteric new thought realm. I had just gotten out of the hospital probably about a week prior. I had been in and out of the hospital pretty much for about 2 months straight with my initial diagnosis, and then I got in a blood clot, or excuse me, not a yeah blood clot from the catheter that was in my chest. So that led to an infection that I had to get surgery for. And then as a result of being in the hospital bed for pretty much 2 months and being on a drug called prednisone, which is a steroid it's part of the protocol of leukemia, it collapsed my vertebrae. So my L2, L3, L4 vertebrae had fractured and kind of compressed down. And I had a lot of back pain. And so the doctors suggested that I go get a back brace to help stabilize me and keep me in an upright posture so that my bones could heal appropriately and I wouldn't have back problems later in life. And so the morning of the NDE, I had to go get a bunch of blood drawn just to make sure my counts and my blood counts and all that were normal, or at least normal-ish for that time period. And then right after that, my dad, myself, and my youngest brother, who was, how old was Jake at the time? 4.5 at the time, or almost 5. We went to go to the back fitting brace technician. And so got all this blood drawn. We get to the back brace fitting technician's office, and we get there, and I had to stand on like these parallel bars, or hold myself up with these parallel bars like a gymnast. And I just stood there. But as I was standing there, I started to feel myself getting fuzzy headed, and getting that tingly sensation in the head where you start to see stars a little bit. So I had passed out quite a few times prior to that in the hospital just because of having low blood counts and other things. So I kind of knew the feeling. And as the measurements were being taken from the technician, took probably about 20-30 minutes. I just kept getting fuzzier and fuzzier and fuzzier and fuzzier and light, weaker and shaky. But I was trying to, not show any signs of weakness to anyone. And so we finally got done 30 minutes later. By this time, the tunnel vision starts to like kind of close in. And we're walking out the building onto the little walkway, and then to my dad's truck, which was probably about 60 meters away. I just start, power walking it, trying to get there so that I don't pass out. And my dad had befriended the technician because they had known each other through the music industry in the town that I'm at, Reno, Nevada. And he was kind of straggling behind. So I sat down, I got to my dad's truck and sat down on the little lip where you would step up to get into the truck bed, and just kind of leaned forward. And by this time, the tunnel is just like closing in. And I see my dad about 30, 40 meters away from me, and he's holding my brother's hand. And I just looked at him and said, "Dad, I'm going to pass." Bang. And I just went out. And the next thing I knew, I was in this beautiful, white, luminescent, goldish, silvery tunnel that just felt like it was liquid love. I like to explain it as it just, I don't know, it was joy, it was peace, it was bliss, it was, any emotion you could imagine that is in that state of love. Seemed like it was almost like a breeze, and it was around me and it was moving through me, and it felt like it was me, that I wasn't separate from it. And then I saw I didn't know, but I saw this figure, this silhouette directly in front of me, probably about 20 meters if I was to measure it. And it was a black silhouette of a man in a trench coat, or now I've come to learn it's called a day coat. And my first thought was, oh, that's Grandpa Joe. And that was my dad's dad, who had died when I was 7, so almost 7 years prior to that. And all that I can remember from that conversation is him saying that everything was going to be all right, everything's going to be okay, you just have to keep going. And when I think about it, oftentimes there's a little bit more that kind of comes in and it seeps into my memory. But that was really the gist of that interaction, that message for me was, you're going to be all right, you're going to be okay, you just have to keep going. And so it seemed like we just kind of existed there for forever, in this fluid, this I don't know, wind, this zephyr, I don't know, it felt like a fluid, and just existed there and just felt enamored by the space. And then all of a sudden I got kind of sucked back, like I was going through a tunnel. And then all I heard was, Zach, are you okay? Zach, are you all right? Zach, what's going on? Are you all right? Zach, wake up. And then I heard a secondary voice say, is he okay? Do you need me to call the cop or call 911? And it was my dad just saying, no, he's passed out before. He'll be all right. And which is kind of weird. I could feel my body, the tingles set back in when you pass out and you come back online. You kind of feel the tingles set in your nervous system. And I was able to talk before I was able to move or open my eyes. And I said, I can hear you, I just can't move yet, which was kind of weird because usually you wake up and then you can kind of talk. But I was able to do that first. And then, I opened my eyes to my little brother to my dad's left or right. I don't know. I think it was this left. Usually it was this left to my memory, and this guy behind my dad, and all their faces are just terrified. And the guy that was behind my dad was just a bystander who had seen me pass out and wanted to make sure I was okay. So then got into my dad's truck after a few minutes of just kind of, letting my nervous system come back online. And he took me to the healthiest place he could imagine, which was McDonald's. Just kidding. No, it was the closest place. So I had some McDonald's breakfast or something like that, and felt better immediately. But yeah, that was the experience. And so then I waited about a week, 2 weeks to tell my dad, and he's kind of a worrywart. So I said, Dad, I don't want to freak you out or anything, but when I passed out, I was in this tunnel of light with Grandpa Joe. And immediately he, got this panic face. Oh my God, are you all right? Or what did he say? Did he say everything? What did he tell? What did he tell you? And I said, he said everything was going to be all right. Everything was going to be okay. That I just had to keep going. And so he was like, okay. And I said, but he was wearing like a trench coat or, whatever. And so then a few weeks to a few months passed. And then he came back with a picture and he said, is this what you saw? And it was a picture of my grandpa when he was a young man in his 30s. in Prague, where he lived, in this trench day coat that was the exact same length that was what I saw him in. So that was kind of cool validation for me, because at that time, you know, being 14, I hadn't had any experiences like that. Like, I'd always felt like I was being watched, but that, I guess maybe as kids, we kind of feel that we're being watched and hopefully looked after. But when I saw that, it was the validation that that experience was in fact real, and that I wasn't making it up, and I wasn't, you know, trying to have wishful thinking, that I did have an experience where my grandpa told me that I was going to be all right. And that was that.
Thank you so much for sharing. That's a beautiful
Yeah.
story. Unfortunate, of course, because we obviously don't want to have those experiences, but you know,
I don't
we
know.
get what we get that time.
Some people watching this may want to have, in fact, a near-death experience, or some type of, maybe mine wasn't near death, maybe it was just an out-of-body experience. But
Mhm.
I feel quite fortunate to have had that, and I'm sure there's a lot of people watching this that will want to have that kind of same experience.
Yeah. Well, I can tell you from experience, I've had out of body experiences, and yours is way, way, way beyond at least what I've experienced. So it's very different.
Yeah, I actually do like listening to the comments from your viewers and the people that, when I do these interviews, because a lot of times it's a half and half. Half the
Mhm.
time people will say, I love this experience, like it really gave me some peace and some hope, or some, you
Mhm.
know, like something to look forward to, and to know that my family isn't gone, and all that. And then the other half is like, he's making this up, he's hallucinating. And you know what's funny is, at this point in my life, after having even more of these weird spiritual experiences, with more out of body experiences, and more, and channeling people that I would have never thought I would channel, and all these type of things, I go, you know, maybe I am making it up. I don't know, but all I know is that when I have these experiences, I'd like to share them, because maybe somebody does get
Mhm.
something from them, because maybe it is that I'm making it all up and this is all just fantasy. But I think if it brings you peace and hope, and, you know, solace to your heart and mind, I think we're on the right track. So for me, that's what it does. And if I'm making it up, at least I'm giving myself some peace of mind, some peace of heart.
I mean, again, and just to add to what you said, yeah, not everyone is going to be on board. Not everyone is going to believe us. I know that in my case, that hasn't, you know, that has been the case where not many people believe me, and
Yeah.
that is okay, because if we're not ready to process, to understand a certain experience for some that someone else had, it is fine. If it doesn't resonate with you, with anybody, just move on.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Just take the positive from the message, and then move on.
Yeah. And maybe there are seeds that get planted, you know, like
Mhm.
being a young kid and thinking, not like I think now. Like the way I think and believe is very different than what I used to think as a young man, a young boy. And it's because of the experiences that have shaped me. So maybe somebody who has that experience where they think a lot of these are, you know, poppycock, and they don't believe it. And that's beautiful. You know, that's they're allowed to believe that, and they're allowed to have that you know, perspective. But maybe they will have an experience where they can go, oh wow, maybe there's a lot more to this than I realized. And
Yeah.
I found that for myself, and I think you found that for yourself,
Yes,
because you're
absolutely.
doing these.
I went through the ringer back in 2011, 2012. So, but
Oh,
I made it out alive. That's okay.
share, like the old lady, share it.
So, I mean, a short version of it, 2011 was a very, very challenging year for me. So I found myself living in Texas at that time, and I was living by myself. And I remember that for some reason I had the ability of be sitting on my bed and closing my eyes. And then all of a sudden I was outside looking at me from a third person perspective. And I'm like, what is going on? So I didn't understand it at that time. And then I had someone on my left ear kind of like explaining to me the situation where I was, why this was going on. And I remember a male voice, this guy telling me, lady, you are not in the middle of a storm. And I was like, well, it looks like I am, and it definitely feels like I am. So when he made that comment, I saw myself, like, you know, the hurricanes, like the picture of the hurricanes from outer space. You see the white cloud everywhere, and then in the middle there's like the eye of the hurricane.
Mm-hmm.
I was right there in the middle, and I was looking at everything, and everything was
Yeah.
going crazy. So he was like, "Lady, you're not in the middle of in the middle of a storm." And I'm like, "Well, then where am I?" He was like, "You are halfway through, you're halfway out. So why would you stop and stay there?
Mm,
Just keep going and you'll be fine." Just
mm-hmm,
like, what you experienced with your grandfather.
mm-hmm,
Just keep going and you'll be fine.
mm-hmm.
So then I was like, wait a minute, who was this guy? And then I started like researching, and then I remembered memories from when I was 2 days old, and I heard the same voice describing my.
Wow,
So yeah, among other things. But
that was very cool.
so that's what basically triggered, a chain of events and caused me to ask deeper questions in life. And I thought I was going crazy because I was hearing voices, I was hearing people's thoughts, and then all of a sudden I could feel their emotions, and I'm like, and back in 2012, this type of conversations or content was not as common as it is now. Now it's like a
Right.
regular conversation.
Yep.
Before, especially, having a Catholic family, oh, that's the devil.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
That's still, you're gonna get comments that say that's the devil. Zach was
that's
talking to Satan or Lucifer, and I'm like, if that's Lucifer, if I spoke with Lucifer in that tunnel
mhm,
of love, I, I don't know how to, like, if that's Lucifer, then when we get to the divine, to God,
mhm.
I, I, I don't know how to, I
Yeah.
don't know how to explain it. Like, you can't explain something that's like, explain love. You can't
Mhm,
explain love to somebody. You have to experience love. And I can't explain to you this tunnel of pure light that
mhm,
is a liquid and an air feeling at the same time,
mhm,
that feels like it is you and is not you, and is pure love and pure bliss and pure ecstasy, and the most profound love you've ever felt, multiply
mhm.
that by 10 and it still doesn't touch it. I don't know how to explain that to you. And so if somebody thinks that that's Lucifer and that the devil's coming to me because I haven't accepted Jesus Christ as my Lord and Savior, and I'm not talking about Christianity in these
Mhm,
things, as much as I love Jesus and I think he is my true brother in
mhm.
light, right? And
Yeah.
is guiding me along my path. If I look at him just a little differently than you do, and I don't agree fully with something that was written in this book, I don't I think the feeling is the truth, not
Yeah.
the true
Have,
feeling, right? It's not just like, oh, I had sex with somebody and I felt ecstasy. No, no, no. You didn't experience the true bliss that comes with. It's not the same that
mm-mm,
you have with a partner that you are deeply in love with, and you have that magic together. That's a totally transcendent experience. And I don't know how to like clarify those so that people, and everyone's, if you have people that are disagreeing with you, you're probably on the right path, like you're probably doing something right. You're on the leading edge and you're pushing people
yeah.
forward. Yeah.
And just to add to that, like the love that you feel in that realm, first of all, again, I had another experience. I all of a sudden I was transported to a different place. I met a being there, and then that place felt like home. Like, oh my God, finally I made it home. Like
Yeah.
I can breathe now. I'm home. It's just like you said, the love that you feel in that place, nothing can compare to it. Not only the love that you feel towards, that being, but the love that being emanates to you. You feel that. It's not like here, like
Yeah.
again, you with your spouse, with your partner, and your partner says, I love you, and you feel that love. It doesn't come close.
Yeah. It's awe inspiring. I had the first time I meditated, I, the first time I meditated consciously, I was 19, and the book that I was reading it in Esther Hicks' book, Asking
Mm,
is Given. And she just said, well, they said, Abraham said, just set a timer for 20 minutes and do nothing but focus on your breathing. So when thoughts come into your head, just keep returning your attention to like the feeling of your breath going in through your nose,
mm,
now through your nose, in through your nose. So it's like, okay. So I did it. I set a timer on my parents' oven clock for 20 minutes, sat in their lazy boy, and I meditated.
wait, hold on. The oven clock.
The oven clock. I know. I should have done it on my phone, but I don't know if phones at that time. This is 2006. I don't know if phones had timers at the time or like meditation apps. I definitely didn't have one.
Never works, right?
Yeah, so I was like, Evan timer, it's close. I'm just gonna put it on. It'll wake me up. And so I turned it on and then sat in the lazy boy and just did that and felt the breath go in and out and in and out. And I first counted it 1, 1, 2, 2, 3, 3. And then eventually I stopped counting and I just felt the breath. And then all of a sudden my hands started going numb, my feet started going numb. And I'm like, oh, what's this? And my conscious mind wanted to control it, my ego. And I was like, but then that subconscious, like, just keep going, just keep going.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just kept breathing, breathing, breathing. And then all of a sudden, as I started to like my energy started to retract inward, my breathing started to pick up,
Mm-hmm.
and then it got really fast. And I'm like, whoa, my conscious brain's going, what the hell's happening? And by this time, all I could feel is like the tip of my nose, the breath just coming in and out, in and out. I can't feel anything else.
Mm-hmm.
And then I took a big breath out and I inhaled big, and my body like expanded to the size of my parents' house, and I exhaled, and another big breath, and I expanded to the size of like Reno, and exhaled, and then I expanded to the size of Nevada, and exhaled, and then I expanded to the size of the earth, exhaled, and I just kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger until eventually my breath just regulated, and I went, and I was kind of like you're saying, the void, where I was in the middle of nothing and could
Mm-hmm.
feel myself as nothing and extending outwardly as everything simultaneously. And it was
Mm-hmm.
this ultimate paradox of I am nothing and I am
Yet I'm.
everything. And it was, and I didn't know where I was, but it felt like I was in like a universe or something, like in middle of the universe, like just kind of dreamy but dark.
Mm-hmm.
And then this in the distance, I heard beep, beep. What is that noise? And then I thought, oh my gosh, that's the noise coming from where my body is. And so just as I had expanded out, I started to contract back down until I got to my body, and I was completely numb. My nervous system was off and I couldn't move. And I
Mm-hmm.
thought, oh shit, I'm stuck this way. What am I going to do? I started to panic a little bit, but I was like, no, like this little voice that's always talked to me, this little inner voice,
Mm-hmm.
like, just relax. Your nervous system will come back online. So I was like, okay. So I'm just breathing. And then I was able to finally like feel the sensations of my fingertips and my toes. And I was like, oh, thank God. So then I could
I'm
start
alive.
moving them. Yeah, I'm alive. But that was my first meditative experience, like first conscious meditative. And I actually saw a comment. I like to go back to the comments of these different videos I've done. And one of the girls, it was a girl, and she said, there is no way that this was his first experience meditating. This doesn't happen to newbies. And I'm like, I don't know what to tell you. Like, the second experience is exactly what you said, where you popped out and were looking at yourself, but it freaked me out. So instead of staying there, I popped out and I was doing the breathing, same breath happened. And I don't know if that's Kundalini breath or whatever, the fire breath, but it just happened naturally. I didn't try it. And I was laying down this time and I popped out of my body and I heard a pop.
Mm-hmm.
And I looked down, I saw my body and went, whoa, and just freaked out and went right back in. That was my second meditative experience.
Mm-hmm.
After that, I was like, this is better than any type of morphine or Demerol or any like anesthetic that I ever had going through 7 years or 6 years, by that time, 5 years of chemotherapy and all that crap. Like, this is better than anything I've ever experienced. I need to do this daily. And it's not the same now, like it's different. I can still go deep, but those first initial like initiate experiences are just like it captivates you,
Yeah.
it holds you.
And it's not just because it was the first experience. So in the experience that I told you that I could kind of like leave my body, I didn't know I was meditating. I was just sitting there on my bed, and then all of a sudden I was out.
Mm-hmm.
But my first experience meditating, that's when I had that out of body experience with the Kundalini. So it was very, very strong.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe it's because the energy back in 2011, 2012 was so big. Like there was so many things going on at that time, not just with me, but I feel like with a lot of people, that the ones who were kind of like going through that dark night of the soul
Mm-hmm.
or awakening, they were like the activation was crazy. The energy was crazy. So that was causing a lot of us to kind of like have experience, I think, on the first one.
I think that mine was in 2006, but I think part of it is too, like Abraham will express,
Mm-hmm.
we're having so much contrast through our life experience. So let's say you have a lot of contrast. And at that time, I had been through 5 years of just struggle. I was seeking, and not just personally, but when I relapsed the second time, I was diagnosed at 14, relapsed at 16. That second time, I had to watch all this suffering from, I was 16 at the time, 2-year-olds, 3-year-olds, 7-year-olds, 9-year-olds, 11-year-olds, and watching their parents suffer and watching their family members suffer and watching the nurses and the doctors suffer. It was a different experience because I was in Oakland Children's Hospital and they had built another floor. So the first time I got diagnosed, it was very isolating and I had to be in the room by myself the whole time. The second time I got diagnosed, the whole floor was available. Even when your blood counts were really low and your immune system was low, you could go and interact without a mask with these
Mm-hmm.
kids and parents and family members and nurses and doctors. And so it helped me question so deeply, why do we suffer like this? Why are we experiencing these things? And that contrast caused my soul to expand to another level where so many people won't cause that. They'll live a whole lifetime and may not have that kind of expansion. I got that in a condensed time period. And I think what you're talking about, that dark night of the soul, you experience that deep,
Mm-hmm.
deep contrast, which caused your soul to expand. And as
Mm-hmm.
a result of that first or initial, those first few meditative experiences where you shut off those, well, really where you shut off the ego, not really
Mm-hmm.
shutting off the ego, but you open up that channel, is going to take you on another level. Whereas the people who may not have had that depth of growth, not saying that we all haven't, because we've all experienced contrast, whether we like it or not, but that depth of the contrast has shot so much expansion forward. And so it's like, okay, time to play catch up. And it's just like how we shot those rockets forward of desire and growth for our soul to expand so that we could play catch up. We finally let go of the cork and it goes game on. And you have these transcendental experiences. And I think everyone can have that, but that's why meditation is the utmost importance. Like, you have to meditate. There's no
Yeah.
question. I used to think, oh, you could pray, you could do this. No, you have to be able to shut down, let go, take your hand away from that cork that's compressing you down and say, all right, show me what's next.
Yeah.
And that's when you start to listen, is when you truly get into that meditative experience where you're listening.
I love that. All right. So we deviated a little bit from your near-death experience. So that's what it's all about, right? We're
That's
just
what it's
having a
all about.
conversation.
It's
Yeah,
organic and fun.
absolutely. But I do have a couple of questions about your
Yeah.
experience.
Yeah.
So I know that you mentioned that when you, like after your NDE, you noticed that you were able to channel. What other abilities did you notice after your NDE?
So I wasn't able to fully channel at that time because the channeling didn't. I was always able to hear a little voice, like I like to call like my inner voice, or the inner voice, like a little voice. And it was always in times of struggle, particularly when I was sick and I was asking these questions like, why is this happening? What's going on? Like, there were a lot of, I'm finishing my second draft of my book right now, my memoir, about that experience, that little 7-year section of time. And I could always hear that inner, like, little voice just whispering to me. It wasn't until I was in my 20s that I was able to like consciously hear other voices. I never really had that depth of ability until I was able to let go and shut off my own ego, my own conscious mind. So that didn't come until later down the road, particularly when I started getting into more of a deeper meditative practice and really going on this like seeking journey for answers, or
Right.
opening up the channel for answers.
So
Yeah.
is that something that you still do to this day?
Occasionally, I can talk to a voice called, or a group called the Council,
Mhm.
that I learned about last year when I did a quantum healing hypnosis session.
Mhm.
Another practitioner did it on me, and then I ended up instead of having experiences and past lives and stuff like that, I just directly went to this group,
Mhm.
and they clarified that they were the people, that they were the group talking to me, and they've been talking to me for a long time.
Other NDEers say that the other side felt more real than this one. So, how did it feel like to be in that tunnel and encountering your grandfather?
Yeah, I don't know. I understand what people say when they say it felt more real. I guess my perception of it all is it all feels real. It doesn't feel more or less real. It just felt different. It just felt like a different outfit. Like this is just a denser, heavier outfit. This body, there's more potentials that could go wrong. It's you carry other people's stuff. You worry about if you're good enough or you're not good enough. Like we hold the emotion much deeper here, which is part of
Mhm.
the experience, right? That's why we're here. And there just felt lighter and freer. And I think that's what people explain when they say they feel at home, is they feel that lightness of being, and they feel free, and they don't feel as encumbered as this reality is. But I think they both feel as real. It's just a different state of reality. That's my experience.
Yeah, and just like we were mentioning before, everyone have their own experience, and it may sound true to others and resonate with others. It may not resonate with others, and that's
Yeah.
completely fine. I again, from my out of body experience, I would have to say I would have to agree with you. It feels lighter. It feels, to me personally, it felt like home. Again,
Yeah,
completely different experience. That is
I
that,
get it.
and I'm
Yeah.
fine with that.
Yeah.
But
It felt like home because home feels safe and secure. This reality feels objectively um, challenging. It doesn't
and it is.
feel safe. It doesn't feel secure. Like I've had these experiences, and still to this day, I deal with trauma from me being sick. So every time something goes wrong with my body, my initial response is, I have cancer
Mhm.
again. I have cancer again. So it's this battle of overcoming the subconscious patterning that has happened to me. So I get when we say that it feels real, but nothing doesn't feel different real. It just feels safe. It feels, you
Mhm.
feel at home. You feel like there's nothing that can harm you. You feel like there's nothing, like you have the answers. And so my whole life I've been seeking for the answers to play this life earth game
Mhm.
better. And it's still, yeah, I've been seeking for the last 17 years diligently for
Yeah.
the answers to play the secret, the life game, and to win at it. And I'm pretty good at it, but still there's that little piece of my brain, that ego, that wants to say, hey, there's something wrong with you. Like to this, I was just in Mexico for the first time with my wife, and all of a
Mhm.
sudden I started feeling this pain underneath my rib. And it's been kind of just this little tiny thing lingering for the last week and a half.
Mhm.
And in my brain, it's like, it's this overcoming of saying, Zach, you just have a little irritation underneath your rib. You went rappelling, you went swimming in the cenote, you went and did these different things. Like your body's just adjusting. Chill the hell out. But it's a game, and so I don't feel safe. I feel very
Mhm.
traumatized, right? The body's keeping the score, and I'm freaking out. But it's that game of calming yourself, going, this is just part of the play. And this contrast is asking for you to have a healthier body. And so focus
Mhm.
on that. Go that way. But yeah, that's me getting off topic again.
No, and that's. I was going to ask you a question along those same lines. So many people are in the same situation, similar situation. They've had like terminal illness, and then they healed, they got better, and then now, just like you, with anything and everything that they feel different in their body, because I do feel like our body talks to us. Doesn't matter. You can work out, you can eat healthy, but your body is always going to
Always.
say, "This is the workout for me, girl," or you know what, I don't like that food that you're eating. Let's go ahead and change it.
Yeah.
So we got to listen to our bodies and
Hmm.
figure out what works for us. However, many people, again, are going through a similar situation. They're either have been diagnosed with a terminal illness, or their family members, friends, or maybe they got better and they have that little voice in the back of their head saying, "This is my nails hurting me. Could the cancer be back?" So, what advice or what ideas, what tips would you give them to kind of like chill, like you said?
Jesus. If I had that answer, I wouldn't be. No, my response to that is acknowledge that it's just part of your brain. So it's hard, like if you listen to any person that talks about complex PTSD, or if
Mm-hmm.
just PTSD, they talk about the physiology of it, where information comes in, all senses, sight, sound, anything, comes in through the brainstem, goes up to the amygdala, and then it goes into the prefrontal cortex. So that brainstem is our reptilian fight or flight response. The amygdala is our mammalian brain, which is our emotional response. Yeah. And then our prefrontal cortex is our higher functioning brain. So I would say you have to develop a meditative practice, meaning you got to sit quiet or with sound or being guided for 15 to 20 minutes a day, because you need to learn to overcome that noise in your head and to still yourself so that you can get into that prefrontal cortex. Because if not, you're just going to be existing in that reptilian, that base of your brain, what I just called, and your amygdala. So your brainstem and your amygdala. You're just going to exist here. And do you want to exist just in fight and flight your whole life? No. So you need to learn a practice to get forward. And the only way to do that, in my experience, is through breath work, it's through exercise, or is through meditation. But through meditation, or I think that's, for me, that's the only process that allows me to actually acknowledge what's happening and to work through it, or just get on some ketamine and do some therapy with a psychotherapist who does hallucinogens. Like, maybe that'll help you. But for me, the only way to do that is to acknowledge what's happening, accept that I have this fear. So my process is accept that I have this fear, acknowledge that this contrast is showing me what I do want, and then doing my best to put myself in a mental state where I'm anticipating what it is that I do want. That's my process. I accept, well, shit, I'm scared, I'm nervous, I'm afraid. And then I'll even ask, like, my second step is, okay, now I got to go. This is the contrast that is showing me what I really want: a healthy body, a healthy mind, whatever. And then I'll even ask, and I'll say, guides, counsel, Jesus, do you have any suggestions for me? Any ways to calm my mind? And then it's a mental game. Life is just a mental game. Nothing in this world exists between right here. Like, our reality just exists there. Our personal reality just exists between our ears, and that's that. And if you don't win that game, you're not going to win at life. You're not going to have fun. You're not going to enjoy yourself. You and I could have the very same experience. We could be observing the exact same thing, but we could be seeing it very differently. I could be very negative in how I'm perceiving it, and you could be very positive in your perceiving it. It's the exact same thing. Look at how people watch a sport. One person is rooting for one team, the other person is rooting for the other team, and their experiences are very different based upon the outcome. It's how you perceive the world is it. So if you don't learn to perceive the world in the way that you want to, and that way will come through meditation, you'll learn to develop that through meditation, you're just not gonna win at life. And it's gonna be life happening to you rather than life happening for you.
Right. Now, I don't know I can't remember where I read this. I don't know if it was in a book or online, but I remember reading, they were saying your brain does not know the difference between what's real and what's not. So if you're thinking, I have this, I have this, I have this, I have this, something is wrong with my body, I'm
Yeah.
relapsing, this is what's going on. Over time, the universe is going to send you proof like, hey, look, you're right. This is the proof. So you're right. And
I
then we're
think
like, oh, life is unfair. Life is happening. And again, You were different because you were a kid, and you've had experiences. You learn from those experiences, but like just like you said, we have to learn how to detach ourselves and look at it from a different perspective.
Yeah, we can use Jesus as an example. What
Mhm.
you sow, or you reap what you sow. And
Exactly.
so if the world, forget about, like, I like the law of attraction. I love the law of attraction because it's happening regardless of whether we agree with it or not. However, if I understand that life is a fertile field and that I am planting seeds for my future reality with my thoughts and my feelings, am I right now planting a fertile field that I'm going to enjoy reaping the benefits of? Or am I worried about my health? Am I concerned about what's going on with me? Because I can still have problems and expect wonderful solutions, right? I can still have troubles. I can still have this pain in my rib. It's not even a pain, it's a pressure or a little sensation. I can have a sensation in my rib and go, okay, I can acknowledge this, that this exists. But I'm really looking forward to when I feel this complete expansion in my ribs and everything feels great. And they know through science that when you have a positive expectation, you heal faster. So the placebo effect is very real. That's why you have to measure every single drug against a placebo. It's a double-blind placebo that you have to go through to get a pharmaceutical drug uh, through the process. Our minds are incredibly powerful. But if life is a fertile field and you are worrying about this or that, then those plants will grow. If I worry about, or if I don't worry and I expect nothing but wellness or prosperity or happy relationships, and I'm imagining that and I'm planting those in my mind and I'm seeing those, and then I go forward into my day and I expect those things to show up, what is going to show up? Those things. Like, life is just a fertile field. And I don't think a lot of us want to acknowledge that because we don't like when bad things happen. I don't like when bad things happen. Lady doesn't like when bad things happen. But if we accept that it was part of our doing, like, sure, shit happens. Accept it.
Hmm.
This is happening. That's okay. You don't have to go back. Like, we always want to figure out what happened wrong. We always want to be like scientists and where did I go wrong here? It doesn't matter because it's happening now. So how about we just focus on now and plant what you want going forward.
Absolutely. And that reminds me of I was talking to another guest a couple of days ago, and we were having a similar conversation. And she was telling me if people don't like the script of their life, change it. Just meditate, do
It's
affirmations, acknowledge the lessons because everything is a lesson. She said that she has noticed that when she receives a lesson from the universe, if she does not accept and process the lesson, she will have the same situation, same experience with someone else.
Yeah,
So she was like, I just show up, get my lesson, and I just move on.
that's the beauty of meditation too, is
Hmm.
the acceptance of the moment.
Hmm.
Right? I meditate because for this 20 minutes so that I learn how to be present in the now. And then I get to go forward with that mindset of going, okay, this person is being my teacher. This person is being my teacher. This person is, thank you, teacher.
Hmm.
Right? If we see everyone as God or the divine coming to us to give us exactly what we need, we can say, thank you for showing me what I need. Think, even if it's the worst thing ever, it's very hard to deal with people when they're
Yes.
rude and mean and angry to you. But at the same time, you can say, okay, so obviously I attracted this into my experience. I accept my part in this story. And I thank you for being my teacher because you're also showing me the kind of interactions I want to have with others going forward. So it's never happening to us. Excuse me. It's always happening for us. But we do think because of our upbringing, especially when we're in this Abrahamic religions, we seem to feel constantly tested, like we need to achieve something and overcome something to get our value and our worth and our but there's nothing. even if you're a Christian, right? Why would Jesus need you to accept him if he came to die for your sins? He
Mm-hmm.
did that out of the generosity of his heart. He doesn't need you to say, I'm your Lord and Savior. Like, why would somebody with so much kindness and generosity, if that's what you believe,
Mm-hmm.
need you to say, you're my Lord and Savior. Thank you so much. You can still be grateful and say, thank you so much for showing me how I'm supposed to live my life with kindness and compassion and grace, love. Right? Like it's that's my qualm with Christianity oftentimes is this person who you revere so much doesn't need you to say, you're my Lord and Savior. You can, that's fine. That's beautiful too, if you truly feel that. Or you can just say, thank you for showing me that I am worthy as well.
Wow.
Right? I don't know.
That was beautiful. That was amazing.
Maybe that was Jesus talking to us.
Yeah, that was definitely channel because well, Jesus, thank you for showing
thank,
up.
thank you for your message.
Zach, I went to your website earlier today and I kind of like looked around like what you're up to. Can you tell us about the work you're doing and how your near death experience has led you to that?
Yeah, so my like 9 to 5 job is I'm an exercise physiologist, which is just a fancy word of saying a experience like a very high level personal trainer. I do life coaching. I'm in the process now of I'm finishing my book, so that's my memoir of the time I was 14 to die of diagnosis to 21, which was when I was considered cured. And so I'm wanting that particularly to be something for parents of young children going through, childhood cancer, and also for kids of going through it, to see that there is hope, that there is a potential, that life can be great, and that this experience isn't going to be your end all be all. It's just going to be part of your story. And now I'm really got my wheels turning because I will be doing some online programs in the next few months and rolling those out that have to do with teaching more of the basics of law of attraction, how we can use that in our lives, specific processes that I've used to help me get the health that I've got, the perfect partner that I've got. Everything that I have in my life now is because I consciously use the law of attraction. So wanting other people to do that deliberately too, wanting to have a deliberate life rather than a life that's happening constantly to you. Broadening out and consolidating different teachings from spiritual teachers that I'd like people to know, that took me almost 2 decades to figure out and consolidate. Maybe I can package that in a way that people will resonate with and can kind of get a jump start onto their spiritual path.
That's beautiful. And it's awesome because I wanted to talk to you about what advice would you give to parents that have kids going through that situation?
If I were a parent going through the experience with a child, which is, I can't even imagine what my parents went through. But what I would say is that constantly see them in their future thriving selves. So acknowledge that they're here now, but try to remind them that there is that light within them. And you don't have to do that so much with your words, like obviously you can. But I would say see them so fully in your own mind as these healthy, thriving young adults or older children once they're through this process, and do that every single day and help influence, put those seeds and plant those seeds for them, because they will tap into that and love them endlessly, right? You love them endlessly, and it's hard. It's hard when you see your kids struggling and it looks like they're about to die. And man, there were so many moments where I looked like I was on death's doorstep. And luckily, I had an amazing family that loved me, that supported me, that reminded me to keep going. But I also had this kind of obstinate resilience that I don't know how you can develop that within your child. You just have to keep seeing them as the whole, healthy, thriving, older person and plant those seeds for them so that their soul, because their soul is asking for that too. So what is it? There's something in the Bible where it's like when two minds come together, the power of creation is exponential.
Mm-hmm.
So be that kind of path for them, set the path for them with seeing them just thriving and happy and healthy, because that's all you can really do, and love them endlessly, right? And when things get bad, go within yourself and ask for those answers, because you'll get them. Do whatever you can, whether that be meditating, whether that be prayer, whether that be accepting messages from the universe. Ask for the answers that you're seeking and accept that you'll get through this. It's hard and it's challenging, and it's the worst thing a parent will ever go through. But when your child is 20 years later, healthy, thriving, living with their perfect partner, doing what they love, having a beautiful life, all of that vision work, all of that mental work will have been worth it, because you will have been like, I'm a product of my parents and the people that loved me, and we all are. And so, not saying that the kids that end up dying sooner before we want them, or transitioning sooner than we want them to, their parents didn't love them any less, or they didn't have a bad vision for them. I would never say that. It's just that your child is having their own spiritual journey, and their soul did come forward to experience this. And as hard as it is to accept, it's virtually impossible at times. And even when you go through it, sometimes it's impossible to experience. I would never ask to be sexually assaulted or raped. I would never be asked to be traumatized. I would never be asked. And I would, and where you are right now, I would say, I agree with you. And I don't think you should ever have to experience that. But you have experienced that. And that has been a lesson for you on not just a soul level, but in a human level too. And now you can get to share more grace with others, and more kindness with others, and more love with others. And it's hard to accept the bad shit that's happening in our lives, which I've said multiple times in this interview now. It's impossible at times, but that's all we can do, and ask for help along the way, because our spiritual team, God, angels, whoever is guiding you, all of them really, they will help you, but it takes time to listen to them, hear them, and then put that into practice. And this reality takes time for us to catch up to where our souls already are. That's just the game. Soul jumps ahead, we play catch up. Soul jumps ahead, we play catch up. Contrast, catch up. Contrast, catch up. Like, that just is what happens. And that's what we came to experience. And it's hard to accept, because none of us want to suffer. I sure as shit am done suffering. I want my life to be happy, healthy, happy, healthy, happy, healthy, dead. Like, that's what I want my life going forward. But that's not reality. I'm going to experience contrast. And so my task, and all of our tasks, is when contrast arises, when things don't go the way we want them to, recognize that our soul is naturally already where we want to be. And so let's just move ourselves forward through different processes and techniques, meditation, visualization, embodiment practices, to catch up to that, and let that be what we manifest, what shows up in our lives. Because like you said earlier, our bodies our bodies are going to bring forward whatever it is we're thinking about, the law of attraction. But it is a state of, our souls are there. Why not be where our soul already is? Why wait so long to have what we've been asking for? I guess that's kind of answered it. I don't know. That's a hard question. You hit me with a hard one. I don't know what the hell. It's hard. It's hard, because I want to say that, but then I read all these comments of people that are being molested, and that have been molested, and have horrible, their children have died and murdered, and it's horrible to see. But if you do think about our souls as this eternal being that's never going anywhere, and that we've lived so many lives before this, and we're going to live so many lives after this, if that's our choosing, we came for the experience. We played a game. We play games with each other, not thinking we're going to win all the time, wanting to win, but we do it for the fun and the pleasure of playing games, whether that be a board game or a sport or whatever. You know you're not always going to win, but you play anyways because you're going to have a good time and you're going to have fun with the people that you love and care about. And that's life too. That's life. It's you came as a soul, as an eternal being, to experience all the beautiful contrasts that life has to offer so that you could have fun with the other souls in this kind of reality that you've already had so many beautiful experiences with, and to meet new souls to have different and beautiful experience with, and to make new friends and to have a good time. And at the end of the day, we're eternal and this body is temporary, so just do your best to love each other and appreciate it while you can.
That's beautiful. Thank you. Thank you so much for saying all those beautiful words. Zach, if people in the audience wanted to get in touch with you or like book a session with you when you have that, how can they get in touch with you?
So I have my website, which is my name. So it's www.zachtavcar.com, ZACHTAVCAR.com. I also have a YouTube channel that I will be much more active on starting this week. But I've got plenty of videos on there from all these different types of stuff. I'll be a lot more active on there. Same thing, my name. And then Instagram I'm pretty active on, and Facebook I'm pretty active on. And again, my name. So if you just want to look up my name, it'll pop up.
So I'll make sure to link all your contact information in the show
Thanks.
notes. That way it's much easier to find you.
Awesome.
And before we leave, what message would you like to leave our audience with today?
Oh, God, I don't know. I think I already said it all, but I would just say, life is happening for you, not to you. And you are an eternal being, and you are worthy, and you are worthy of being loved, and you are worthy of doing whatever it is your heart desires, and you can have whatever it is your heart desires. And you're being looked out for, you're being watched. I was told this in my hypnosis session, and the counsel said, you are safe, you are loved, and you are protected. And I think everyone should know that and feel that. You are worthy, you are loved, you are safe, and you are protected. And if we just went about our lives remembering that, I think we'd have pretty good lives.
That was beautiful. Thank you. Thank you again, Zach, for sharing your incredible journey with us.
Thank you, lady.
And we appreciate the wisdom and hope that you bring to our audience. Thank you again so much for coming on the show.
Thank you so much for having me, lady. I appreciate it.